Steven, I don't want to jinx the Eagles by singing the song. I don't want to sing the song, but, go Eagles.
Go Birds. Go Birds. Go Birds.
I mean, so when you encounter someone in the city and you walk past them or you hold the door, it's go Birds. It's not even like thank you. It's go Birds. I mean, it's become a thing to just say go Birds as it's goodbye, it's hello, it's thank you. You just slept with a woman, it's go Birds. You sleep with a man, it's go Birds. Whatever you want.
It's like aloha. It's goodbye and hello. Go Birds.
Go Birds. So yeah, you're gonna be
going to the Super Bowl, baby.
Yeah, are you going to the Super Bowl?
No, I'm not. I'm saying we're going as in the Eagles.
Weird. I love when people are like, we did it. You get those 20-year-old, 24-year-old, I'm going to point out white girls who find every reason to put on black spandex, which I like. I like that.
What's wrong with that?
I like that, but then they wear their Eagles jersey, then they go out and they're drinking. They're like, let's go Eagles. We did it. We did it. We did it. I'm like, you didn't do shit. You fucking drank a White Claw, you got trashed, and you went out on the street and ate some horse shit and tried to climb a pole.
Minus the horse shit part. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 17,
18,
there was
right? Or is it 17?
It was, I think, the 2017 season. The guy was out on Broad Street where people go after the game when they win, like the Super Bowl or a big thing.
Yep.
And they have horse patrol, right? Well, the guy decided to eat some shit right off the ground, leaning his face into it. Oh, how's your morning coffee, by the way? You guys enjoying it now that I just said he just leaned in and ate some shit? Yeah, that's what he did. Horse shit. Fly, Eagles, fly on the road to eat horse shit. Fight, Eagles, fight. Anyway, where are you watching?
I don't know yet. I usually go to my parents for this kind of thing because my uncle's coming over. He's in Jacksonville, Florida. He moved there a couple years back, but he's always been a diehard Eagles fan. So he usually visits once a year when the Jaguars play the Eagles, and my dad and him will go. But when it's a Super Bowl, at least in 2018, he came over and actually flew here and watched the Super Bowl at home. So he's coming back again, and we're gonna have a big family get together watching the Super Bowl at my parents'. But I also have a couple friends that live in the city, specifically in South Philly, and they're doing a big street block party type thing. And Nicole's not going to be home, so I'm debating. Philly. I'm like, I actually could go to that if I wanted to, but it's also going to be a shit show trying to get home after the fact.
Not only a shit show after the fact, getting there before the fact is a shit show.
Yep.
Then all the drunkards, and if they win, you're not getting out of there, Steven.
Well, that's the thing.
They will be marching down the streets.
Yeah. Yep. If we do win, I'm probably not coming home at that point. So
yeah, well, you can come to my house. You can.
Yeah, but you're on the complete opposite side of the city.
I am the complete opposite side of the city.
That would take probably an hour at least to get there.
It'd take a long time.
Yeah.
I'm having my dad, brother, and a few people are coming over. I mean, I just had a big birthday party on my birthday, and now I'm just going to do this thing just because I like watching on my big screen. It's just easier for me to watch.
My 160-inch projector with surround sound, 9.1 surround. What is it?
161-inch, Steven.
Oh, excuse me.
I'm going to debate
Every inch counts.
I'm going to debate whether I watch it on the cable channel or if I put on Fox app. But the problem with Fox app is that it's delayed, and I don't want notification. Anyway, we'll probably just watch it on the regular TV, but having the option for the 4K is good.
The Fox app streams in 4K. That's why you're saying I should do the Fox app?
Yeah, but they may actually put 4K on TV. Everybody, my dad, when they looked at 4K, they're like, why is it so much darker? It's so much brighter. I'm like, yeah, but Dad, look at the details that you're getting. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize that the details, that's why it's darker. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's darker, because the non-4K broadcast, you're getting 4 times the resolution of that.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why it's slightly darker, because there's more details. Anyway, welcome back, guys. This is RAWtalk episode number 37. Last week, you had a special episode where I spilled all the beans. Because we so happened to be away, and we couldn't talk about where we were going. We didn't want to talk about where we were going in case other people talked about where we were going. And we'll get to the R8 and the R50 trip that we did.
Yes.
And we will discuss that and Steven editing the video and all of that good news.
What a nightmare.
First, we've got some new reviews for us to read. And by us, I mean Steven. Steven, read those juicy reviews.
I don't remember the last time we actually read the reviews, so I'm going to go back to like the end of January at this point. So let's see. We have something from Twitter is Better. He says, Raw Talk, Real Talk. Enjoy the real conversation between two humans with the photo news mixed in. We've got something from J Lively 88, non-photographer fan. I found Fro when I had dreams of being a photographer. That dream has dwindled, but I still listen. Love the non-photography talk, especially business-related conversations and discussions about jeans, too.
Quitter.
There you go.
Quitter. You quit.
We've got something from...
No, he quit. Let's rag on him. You quit photography? No, I'm just kidding.
I think he's saying dreams of being like a professional photographer as in like a career move more so than photography itself. Like me?
Kind of like you.
Exactly.
You have dreams of being a pro photographer.
One day I'll reach those goals.
And when you get your speaking of Super Bowl, by the way, I think Squarespace has been teasing a Adam Driver commercial. I love Adam Driver.
I keep seeing the one from Booking.com that they're teasing with Melissa McCarthy. Oh. That's the one I keep seeing, but I don't really watch cable TV, so I don't know about.
No, I'm seeing online ads with Adam Driver, and it's like the duplicity is coming. I don't know why Squarespace. I mean, I guess I know why. They're a publicly traded company, and this is good for their visibility. They can be like, we had 800 million eyeballs this week, and I was like, yeah, and you spent $10 million for an ad, and then guaranteed them that you'd spend another 30 million. Sorry, 10 million.
Jeez.
Anyway. Keep going, Steven.
We've got 5 stars from Cherokee Photo. Great show. As a Nikon shooter, I'm having trouble focusing during the show. I like that one. They bounce around topics a lot, but I still tune in because much like my Nikon, the podcast produces the best images of two guys talking about a subject I love and keeping me entertained along the way. Cheers, fellas. That's a good one. I like that.
That's kind of right. We do bounce around more than the Nikon autofocus.
As long as we eventually get back on track, that's fine. I just hate when we start a topic and we don't finish it. That's when it's all over the place. Another 5-star rating from Jason BCA. Very fun and good info. This show is a must. I started with the podcast, but found it even better to watch it on YouTube. These guys are great. Good source of all current photo news and more. Oh, actually, that's an old review, but he did an update on February 2nd saying, I'm happy the show is back on the air. I like how raw they are and how they talk about topics. It's just like hanging out with friends. And I think that, to me, is the whole point of this podcast. It's just between two friends, coworkers, whatever you want to call us, and we're just shooting the shit every week.
That's right.
We've got a 2-star rating. Oh,
okay. Let's hear a 2-star rating. From who's it from?
Amanda Noner. Confused, she says. No doubt he knows his photography stuff, but every episode I've tuned into, he just talks crap about other people and puts them down. She's not wrong. Sounds extremely
true.
Sounds extremely entitled and condescending. Absolutely not the positive mindset I'm looking for into a podcast.
Well, if
also,
you were looking
kindness
for
matters.
Fuck off. So if you're looking for positivity, you came to the wrong place. Raw Talk is not about positivity. We're about inclusivity of all people. I'm just kidding.
It's not a bad thing to be positive.
I know. But I call it like it is. And if I have a negative outlook on certain things, I'm going to share my negative outlook. It's not everything, Steven. It's not everything, but Jesus, I'm not rainbows and butterflies. I'm not the guru that's like, are you feeling down today? If you're feeling down, what you need to do is open up your window, put your head outside, suck in that fresh air, breathe out 5 times, and then you'll be happy today.
Woosah.
Yeah, woosah.
We've got something from Adam Finger 79.
This is what Steven does when he wants to try and move along and say, Jared, don't focus on the negativity.
Someone's got to do it.
We thank you, Heather Nooner. Amanda Nooner, for your comment. We appreciate it. You're not wrong in certain aspects. You're not wrong.
She's not.
But I'm not going to be the most positive person in the world. Someone's got to call some shit out. We're going to be those people. But thank you for listening.
5 stars from Adam Finger 79. Best podcast I've heard in a while. Steven is definitely Jared's Fred. The back and forth banter, off-topic conversations, and mini meltdowns makes this show amazing. It reminds me of listening to Stern back in the day with photography tips thrown in. I'd listen daily if it happened. Thank you. Keep up the great work. P.S. This is my favorite part. Steven deserves more than 12%. You, sir, are correct.
Nah. Whatever.
And then we got a 1-star rating, man.
1 star.
CX8790.
Hey, hold on, Steven. Before we get to CX8975309, we're not looking for people to put up fake negative comments. We like feedback, of course. But yeah, we're not gonna just, if you put something up negative doesn't mean we're gonna read it. But this one Steven he's gonna read it to me.
1 star from CX8790. Bob Ross wants his look back. Spend more time talking about great he thinks he is more than photography. I think he meant to say how great he is.
Yeah, hey, how about you spend more time on figuring out how to speak English?
Proofreading your review.
Proofread your review and maybe get it right before you're a dumbass. Wait, I'm not talking down on this person, but they're a dumbass. That is a terrible comment. Bob Ross, dead, all right? He died of cancer. So how dare you talk about Bob Rosenstein like that? I'm not negative. I'm positive.
So you're the most positive person ever. And we'll get to more on that when we talk about the trip that we just went on.
Well, yeah, you can bring that up. All that positivity.
So much
positivity. Do you have
positivity.
any more comments? Yeah, I didn't like that negative comment because he didn't really proofread his stuff, and we don't really talk about how great I am because we talk about other things, like how great I am.
And there's a couple more comments too, but we'll move on. Yeah.
So what do we do Saturday, Steven?
Saturday, we went to look at another property to purchase, more for work this time. Fro Factory number 2.
No, that would be Fro Factory 3, Steven. Fro Factory 2 is technically next to my house.
Fro Factory 3, Jesus.
It would be Fro Factory 3, but I don't think I would if I wouldn't make it Fro Factory 3. But why did I have you come in?
You wanted me to kind of give it my stamp of approval to see if it's up to par for Frono's Photo Productions in terms of, like, can we build more sets out? How's the sound in there? How's the natural light? Is there enough square footage? The full works. Like, can we actually upgrade to this new building, and is it worth it for us? Do we need to actually upgrade our space?
What'd you think?
I had no issues with it, really. I mean, in a perfect world, I always tell you that I would love just a straight up general warehouse with carpeted floors, 0 windows, low ceilings, something
that's Factory 2.
Something that's better for sound, for video, all of that. And we always opt for the complete opposite, which is wooden floors that aren't level and creaky and all of that, tons of window light, super high, 14-foot ceilings that the sound just travels all over the place. So,
wouldn't you say that those floors were pretty stable over there? Because I don't think they were original wood floors. I think they were original, probably under, and then they put a new substrate on top.
So the current floors at the factory are so creaky, and I mean, they're original floors, right? I think
they're oak. I remember when they. No, they're pine, because when they were sanding in here, it smelled like a pine tree.
Oh, that's funny. But those floors, I mean, it's impossible to walk without it creaking, or like when you're when you're recording a video, I can't even walk upstairs because you can hear the sound. You can hear creaking and the floor moves, and it's rough. So I went to this new place. We checked it out to see if it works for us, and I really had no complaints. I mean, I already deal with most of that stuff at Fro Factory, the current one, so it's not. I can deal with it. Biggest thing for me was we need to get blinds if we do move into that place, because I want to be able to control that light, which, same thing at the current factory. We never, ever open up those blinds for the most part. And the biggest thing for me, minus the blinds and the natural light, something else that we need to kind of fix right away is, proper power, making sure we have enough outlets throughout the building, getting our internet set up, having strong Wi-Fi, running Ethernet cables, moving our entire server over there and getting that properly set up, security cameras around the building, getting all of those things done before we move in, and then we can start to slowly make that transition over. And another thing I kept mentioning to you is that, there's going to be some growing pains transitioning over to this new building. It's not going to be a simple one-day move and we're done. There's going to be it's going to be a very slow moving process in terms of rebuilding all of the sets, getting all the gear reorganized, trying to also keep the YouTube channel up and running and filming videos in between. And just the moving process in general is going to take probably at least a week. So it's going to be a lot to take on. I mean, it's a major project for the year for us, but in the long run, it's going to be well worth it. But yeah, I had no issues. And me, I'd be the first person to speak out and say, hey, we shouldn't move here. This is not the right move, blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's why I called you in, because I'm like, well, I shouldn't not, because every time I do something without asking Steven, because everything falls on Steven. Steven's going to have to build the new sets
exactly.
out.
I'm going to have to be the one moving everything over.
Put all the tape. That's because you're
every
anal.
set together. And yes, I am anal. I do agree on that. I do have a severe OCD. But at the same time, you don't give a shit half the time. So you're like, it's good enough.
No, I give a shit. I want it done right, but then I don't give a shit.
Correct. But you want it done right, but you want it done incredibly fast and quick, which doesn't really make sense in my opinion. Everything that's done right takes some time.
Yeah, it takes some
But
time.
we typically compromise. I've got my OCD and you got that I don't give a shit mentality, and we kind of come and meet in the middle, and it works. It works for us.
So I'll paint the picture of this place, because look, I wasn't looking. I had no intention.
I need to buy another property. It's been a minute.
It's been 2 years. It's been roughly 2 years. The beginning of the pandemic. No.
Need more space for my Lamborghinis and Porsches.
November of 2020. Well, there is space on the side. There, you could put 6 cars out there. There
that
is
was
a
one
lot
thing
on the side.
that I liked, was that we would actually have parking this time around, where right now we have street parking, which every once in a while I have to park all the way down the street. Not the
Which
end
is
of the
not
world.
that bad.
Yeah, but it is annoying when I have like a ton of gear to bring back to the factory and I have to lug it from all the way down the street. So that's the only issue when I have to find parking far away.
Well, someone sent me the listing, and I was like, I'll go take a look. So I went the day before to take a look with a friend. She's an investor in Philly, and I mean, it's a cool spot. You go into it, and you're looking at 4,800 square feet between multiple floors, not counting the basement. The basement isn't fully finished, but there were parts of the basement that are usable and workable.
Oh, yeah.
Clean. Like,
It's got a
nice,
very rustic feel to the basement, too. It would make for a perfect kind of backdrop for certain sets, too.
It really would.
Yeah.
And it's all dependent upon if it ever floods, which you hope it doesn't ever happen.
There's no windows and concrete floors and low
There was a
ceilings in the
window.
basement.
There's a big-ass egress to get out.
Yeah,
We
but
would have to...
I'm saying the entire basement isn't covered with windows.
That's true. I mean, upstairs has a ton of windows, which is actually it's great. It lets in a lot of light. We'll have to block those, and I'll have to spend a lot of money to do so, to put up the solar shade as well as the blackouts.
Yep.
But it's a very interesting place. Just think of a loft space that you would see in Big, very similar to a loft space that you would see in Big, high ceilings, brick walls, lots of open space.
It's the current factory, but bigger, really.
It is the current factory, but bigger. And it's a very quick walk from one place to the other, which was more surprising than anything. I didn't intend to go over there and put in an offer, and I didn't at the time, because I was like, well, what would I do with this property? I don't need this property. And then I was like, well, what if I rent this property to someone else? But then when it's such an expensive property, you're going to have to get such a big renter in there that's going to have to be paying a good amount of money to make it even worthwhile. And then when I was sitting at lunch, I was like, wait, why don't we just move the factory there? Frono's Photo will obviously pay for that, which pays the rent already, and I can rent out. It's a write-off. I can rent out the studio that we're currently in. And so that was where I was thinking, and I decided to make an offer, and we put a thing. It's like by the end of day, and they didn't accept my offer.
Yeah,
they didn't accept my offer. And then 3 days later, as it tends to be, they probably didn't get anything as good as what I offered, and we resubmitted an offer. Steven,
did they accept it?
And they accepted it.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I didn't tell you.
Actually happening real time on air. Wow. Okay. That's going to be a big move. That's going to be fun.
Not until May.
Not until May. Okay. That's cool.
They extended it out because they have a renter upstairs and they needed more time, and so we don't care how long it takes, because for me, I just like building up more money bags, because we could well, the down payment, it's a pretty substantial value, price. It's the most expensive property I've purchased since my house 2 years ago. And like, I know, like, as of last Thursday, sitting out after art class, talking with a bunch of the people in the class, we went out to get a drink. They went out to get a drink, and I sat there. But we were like talking about things, and I'm like, no, I never intended to buy 4 properties. Well, fuck, man. The next day, it turns out I start to see another place and purchase it. Now, let me go through the mindset for me. It's like, I didn't intend to pick up another spot, really, because it just involves more work and more stress.
And my biggest thing I kept saying was, we don't need this property. I just kept bringing that up, like, just FYI, we do not need to move. We don't need the extra space. That's what I kept bringing up. But hey, if you really wanted to purchase it, I wasn't going to say no.
Yeah, so it's not as much of a need as more of another retirement piece of the puzzle. So look, I've got... You want to talk finance? I talked about this stuff on the Grand Stefan Coffee Hour podcast back in the day when I was on there over the summer, because he's a real estate guy. And the way that I looked at it is, I've got cash in the market. I've got life insurance policies that accrue money over the years that you can pull from. I've got cash I don't have cars. I don't have a Porsche or a Lamborghini. No assets like that. But there's cash, right?
Still
there's
not
cash.
enough to give me 12% of the podcast either.
No, you're right. No 12% for you.
Keep
There's still
buying properties.
I'll keep buying properties, okay? There's still cash available. And when I looked at the numbers, even though I've allocated cash to build out the studio next to my house before I decided to buy this other place, I talked to my financial people. I talked to everybody. Like the money's there, and it's not like it's being utilized at the moment. And it's not like if I spend this, I don't have anything left.
Yeah.
And so the reason it was interesting is because it's another super unique loft property that's almost 5,000 square feet. But more importantly, it has a property ground next to it that's like 62 feet long, and it's the 20 or 30, I don't know how wide the property is, the lot, but it's certainly buildable in the future.
It's enough to build on for sure, yeah.
And lots like that are going for $300,000 to $400,000 currently.
And
I've got one here at the studio,
exactly.
at the factory.
I mean, right there is your retirement plan.
Well, but the plan is here, we will jump to the new studio. We'll roll everything down the street in a big caravan. And by
we quite literally might be rolling things down the street. That's how close this place is.
We absolutely will be rolling things, certain things down the street. Yep. We'll get a moving thing for the moving people to move stuff. Literally 17-second walk.
And hey, May will be actually a nice time to be moving things outside.
April showers bring May flowers.
There you go.
At least before global warming.
I might be busy mowing my lawn though or something.
Yes, you might be busy mowing your lawn. So the plan now is to find a renter for the factory that we're in right now. So whether that's a woodworker, a media marketing agency, for 2 photographers that would want to go in together to rent this place. It's a really usable office space for creatives.
It's business zoned, right?
This is business and residential. Remember, the person can
so
sleep
you can get
next
either
door.
Or. Nice. Yeah.
I mean, you could have someone that wants to live here and work here. It could be a live workspace. We could put up that door. I could put a door where there where we cut the wall. No, there was no door. I mean, it was walled up. It was walled over.
Okay.
Yeah, they did cut through the wall at some point. So that's a possibility. So this is a legitimate possibility, or this is going to happen. I'm going to rent this place. And that's part of, you want to talk about financial things, is part of it is it's not like I'm renting this and I'm renting that and carrying all the mortgage. If I get someone in here at the right price, that covers the mortgage for this place that I was paying rent for anyway from Frono's Photo, and we just take the money that I was spending here and we put it into the new place plus a couple grand extra, which for us doing business, it's a write-off. It's makes free. Sense. That's its fee. Anyway, I know this isn't a finance podcast or any of that, but I just wanted to surprise Steven that they accepted the offer.
I had no idea. I actually
under contract.
I looked this morning and it said under contract, and I assumed that you didn't resubmit an offer and they picked somebody else. I did not realize it was you.
Yeah, it was me.
Did you get to renegotiate since you resubmitted and then they did not accept the first offer? Did you get to bring them down a little bit?
No, well, no, because they had another offer from what I was told of a cash offer,
but it wasn't a bidding war.
Don't know. No, it wasn't a bidding. No, because you know what I offered before was just under asking. So to go to asking doesn't really matter. Right? It's nominal. It's small. Would I like to save more money? But the truth of the matter is, every property I've purchased
at asking, right?
Except actually my first property, they wanted like $550 for my other one. I almost said where it is. They wanted $550 and I came in at $389.
Did they accept $389?
No. I offered that. My realtor's like, you might piss them off. I'm like, well, let's see what happens.
That's pretty low. Yeah.
We went to $389. They came down to $500. I came up to $400. They were like, blah blah blah. We came to $425. It went to $425. And I don't. I guess that was the only property that I didn't buy at asking.
I brought mine down about $50K before we purchased, but we went back and forth a couple times.
Well, $50K on your property,
on my property,
that's a lot of
is a nice chunk
of money.
Change. Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not a good property. It's a good property that's gone up in value. I'm saying difference between a $1 million property and the other stuff. Yeah, for $50,000 is a huge savings.
Oh yeah. I mean, and right now you look on Zillow, and my Zestimate is over 50% of what we paid.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, for me, the property is just getting into It just made it. I guess it made sense. We'll figure out the rest later.
And hey, right now at the current factory, we pretty much maxed out the available space in terms of sets. We have 3 upstairs, 2 roughly downstairs. 3 downstairs actually. Well, if you consider the mural set in the lobby.
We actually, yeah,
we technically have 3, I guess. So 6 total, but we really don't have much more space at this point. And there's lights everywhere. The biggest thing for me is there's not much of like storage space for gear, like big gear, like the jib or, just C-stands, stuff like that. They're kind of scattered throughout the factory. So I think at this new place, we could put a lot of it down in the basement and figure out a nice storage facility space and really open up the floor, which would be nice.
We'll have to figure it all out. Anyway,
I'll have to figure it all out.
You'll have to figure it out. We'll make a plan, Steven. We'll make a plan months in advance.
My stress level went from 75 to 100.
Oh, it's going to go up even more.
Great.
Okay, let's move into what we couldn't talk about a couple weeks ago and why we had to pre-record the interviewee thing, because we got invited to a press trip in South Carolina by Canon.
Charleston.
Charleston, South Carolina. Canon brought together a bunch of creatives. You've seen most of their videos come out on YouTube, so you know who was there. That's why I generally don't post when I'm away, because I don't want to accidentally post something, or you don't want a bunch of creators from the internet sharing where they are, and people are like, well, who are they with? Who are they there with? And so
I always debate, though, can I at least say I'm in like South Carolina? But then, like you said, if Manny said he was also in South Carolina, clearly something's going to be going on in the industry if both of us are there at the same time.
Yeah,
so I try to also refrain.
Nikon.
Yeah. Canon's the only one doing trips right now.
They are, and we I was very positive on this trip, Steven. Did I want to go? Did I want to go?
Yeah, you were like gung-ho, like, let's go to Charleston. Yeah, especially the plantation. You really wanted to be there for that one.
Yeah,
during Black History Month.
Good choice. They took us to a plantation on Black History Month.
Oh, man.
That would not have been my first choice of locations to do a photo shoot. Now, I understand that they wanted to have a nice, it's a beautiful space, right? It's a nice area.
It really was, yeah.
But when I was going to photograph the 2 models that we had, I was like, let's stand in front of this building. And then I was like, let's not stand in front of this building with 2 white people and let's photograph the other way, down the other way. And do you remember the name of the bridge that we photographed on, Steven?
Was it the White Bridge or something like that?
The Long White Bridge.
The Long White Bridge.
The Long White Bridge.
And guess what color the bridge was? No, my favorite was when we went to the Red Bridge and it was painted turquoise. Did you see that?
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. It was called the Red Bridge and it was a turquoise colored bridge.
So basically, they brought us down there to South Carolina, Charleston, to announce the R8 and R50 to us.
Yes.
I would prefer not going on these trips, honestly.
Same.
I like trips, but it's a lot of time. We got to travel on Monday, which thankfully they did East Coast, which means next time they'll probably do West Coast. But East Coast, it's an hour and 10-minute flight for us. So that's enjoyable. That's easy. We don't have to get jet lagged.
Yep.
It's just less travel, less wear and tear on us. And we're there. We're refreshed. We're ready to go. The problem is, just give me the damn gear to use on my own time. I don't need them to set up the damn plantation for me and have models come in and then take us everywhere. And honestly, the second day was not very enjoyable for me. Steven was at the hotel editing or doing B-roll.
Filming
and
everything,
I was, like, the whole thing was, you're going to walk around Charleston until 1 o'clock, and then you have more time to walk. I'm like, guys, I don't want to just walk. I could walk around Philly if I want to walk around Philly. The moral of the story is we appreciate getting these opportunities, but we voice our displeasure about the fact that Sony can give you a top-level camera 3 weeks to a month in advance and just mail it to you. And same thing with lenses. And Canon is like, well, we're going to do a trip. Oh, and by the way, you get back on Thursday. The announcement is Tuesday night.
Well, that's the biggest thing for me is the embargo always lifts barely a couple days after the trip ends. And how do they expect us to put out a video on 2 new cameras? Not just 1, but 2, only a few days after the trip. It's really hard to gather our thoughts and film a video and try and edit it in a timely manner to get it out by Tuesday night when we get home Thursday night.
I think the video was really good. I watched it after I posted it. It was really good. I think it looked great. I think the guy giving all the information was fantastic. I think he was on point.
Yeah, the Bob Ross looking guy. Yeah.
The Bob Ross looking guy was
really
fantastic. But no, I think it was really. Oh, it's a solid showing, and it explains everything. I mean, I would love to take it. Peter McKinnon put one out because he works with Canon. He's not a Canon ambassador.
I guarantee he had weeks with the camera, if I had to guess.
He had more time than we did, but he also got to take it where he wanted to take it. What I liked about what he did, well, he actually didn't talk about specs. He just really just shows himself using it. Mm-hmm. He did get something wrong. He said 6 frames a second mechanical shutter. He said it had a mechanical
shutter, yes.
And it doesn't have a mechanical. It has a form of mechanical, just one part of a shutter.
Yeah.
Right. And that just gets out of the way. Still, that's what I would prefer to do. Send me the camera, let me go out and make a video, which is what we always used to do.
So for me, I would rather, if I could have the best of both worlds where we can still do the trip and make it 2-3 days max and get to, use the gear for a day or two. We get to talk to some of the engineers, talk to some of the Canon technical people, ask them questions, sit there for the presentation and get to, again, talk about gear, what's new in the camera, all of that kind of stuff. And then if we could take it home for maybe a week, 2 weeks at most, and then film the video, I think that's the best of both worlds, is where we could also do the trip and still get to do something on our own and take it home and not freak out, for me at least, freak out and try and do everything in the hotel room and get everything done before we leave. Because we can't take these cameras home. We literally only have, 2-3 days with them. And this time, though, they were full production cameras, which I was very surprised about. And the second day of shooting, we actually got to walk around Charleston. You got to walk around Charleston while I was in the hotel room filming all the B-roll. But I was very surprised at that, because typically Canon does not do any public events, where you can just walk around out in the open with the new cameras that aren't available to the public just yet.
I was walking around with David Schloss of Dave Tries This. Yes. Of which I named that YouTube channel. Is it Dave Tries This or David Tries This?
Dave Tries This.
Dave Tries This. Go look up Dave Tries This. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, good people.
So they were, I always like to talk about food. I'll give you the food review. I was very disappointed in the food. Everybody says Charleston.
You showed it.
Everything. I did. Everything in Charleston, everybody says that Charleston is a food town. The problem is they kept us in the hotel eating at the hotel place, which means you're getting hotel catering, shitty. I mean, it's not shitty, but it's not local fare. You're not going to a local restaurant, which I would prefer to do, and I'd pay for it on my own if I could just go. I just can't not go to the dinner. I almost left one of them, but the one I almost left is, I say I don't eat pork. And I'm not saying that you can't serve pork, right? Like, I don't care. Mm-hmm. But the dinner consisted of a ham carving station. It consisted of Italian sausage and stuff. And then there was like a pasta dish. And then there was really crappy shrimp. And it's like, oh, we got you the shrimp dish. I'm like, well, one, I like shrimp. But I just had 17 appetizers of shrimp because they had grilled shrimp for appetizers. I'm like, I need a meal. And I literally asked for anything but pork for myself, and there's nothing on this menu, again, that makes any sense for me to eat. And yeah, I take my food very seriously. And
well, you're like the Snickers commercials. You get very hangry if you're hungry. And
I wasn't hangry. I wasn't hangry at all, Steven. I wasn't hangry. I was disappointed. Now,
no, you're hangry.
Now,
you
first
are
off,
hangry.
I'm not hangry.
Yes,
I can get hangry. I wasn't hangry, but I wanted good food. Now, that day we were walking around Charleston, we would meet the bus thing, the trolley car, and they were going to take us to this place to have lunch. When we got to that place, the lunch was club sandwiches. Ooh. And I'm like, you guys took us to another hotel to be up in their event space to eat club sandwiches. Now, thankfully, on the way walking to this hotel to go have lunch, I'm across the street. There's a bike shop. I look across the street, and what do I see, Steven? A sign that says pho. Pho. So
Wait, was there a number after it?
No, it wasn't pho 78 or pho 88 or pho 89. It said pho, and this chicken pho was fantastic. So I ate lunch before I went to the other place, thankfully, because if I got there, I would have been pissed off that they had terrible club sandwiches that I would not have eaten.
And I ended up skipping lunch because I was trying to just get everything done at the hotel room before the dinner party and afternoon shoot that day. So I went around trying to find like a burger place, and eventually I found a place that was open, and all they had was club sandwiches. So I ended up having club sandwiches. I missed out on the actual lunch from Canon, which was club sandwiches.
So the other thing that happened at the hotel, there was this jacket place. There was this nice place that I saw this jacket in the window. I'm like,
stuff you talk about.
I know, but I was walking
There's
through.
so many more things that happened on this trip, and you talk about this.
Well, when I first got there, I'm walking through because they had like a Gucci store, a Louis Vuitton.
A lot of high end, yeah.
For whatever reason, because this is a Charleston place where we stayed in the South. And there was a really nice J. Frederick, whatever, that's the guy who owns it, clothier place. And there was this jacket in the window, another leather jacket. I'm like, I love that.
How much did it cost?
It cost some money.
How much money?
It cost more than an R8. I'll tell you
my
that.
12%?
More than your 12%. It costs more than an R8, and an R8 is $1,500.
Buying new jackets, new properties.
I didn't know I was going to buy a new property the next week. But anyway, I tried on this jacket. I wanted the jacket, so I ordered the jacket because they needed to get one size up, and hopefully get it soon. It's a beautiful jacket.
It was nice, yeah. It actually fit you well, I thought.
It fit me too well.
Right off the shelf.
Right off the shelf, it fit me perfect. But that was with a super thin jacket, shirt underneath, with no sleeves.
You were concerned. You're like, well, what if my muscles grow if they're bigger?
Well, I was more concerned. I didn't want to say, like, what if I gain weight, like 5 pounds, and like get fat at some point, which I'm not going to get fat. But
yeah, but you were more concerned, I feel like, about your arm, about how like it was on your arms.
Yes, it was tight on the arms because my muscles are big. So anyway, I went back. I bought it. It's a business expense because I'm going to use it in a photo shoot.
You're like, Steven, all you have to do is take one picture, and then we can say it's a business expense.
I'm going to use it in Fix. I'm going to wear it in Fix, and it's going to be a new profile photo. So for the business,
just get rid of the Keira Knightley photo, and then we'll replace it with this jacket photo.
No, I'm going to get an even bigger.
And then we can tell the IRS,
made.
see, it was a write-off. See, it was used for work.
So now let's move on to those cameras. But actually, before we talk about the R8 and our R50 experience, let me tell you about the experience of posting it. Steven finished editing at 10:40 or 10:41 p.m.
Well, no, I finished exporting at 10:40. I finished editing about 10:15.
Oh, okay.
To be
so
exact.
Steven finished 10:15. Embargo lifting, for everybody who actually followed Embargo, not DP Review, was 11 p.m., right? They uploaded at 10 p.m. for some unknown reason.
I don't know why, but then
cameras,
they saved the R50 video for 11. It was weird.
Which makes me think they did it on purpose.
Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
But I don't understand how they screwed up that one but still got the other. Yeah. So Steven finishes at around 10:15. The video finishes exporting at 10:40, which means he uploads it. It's done uploading fairly quick. I put all the information in. It's checking, it's processing, it's checking. This is what YouTube does. It has to process first, and then it checks. It checks.
And this
about
was a 15 gigabyte video, too. Just keep that in mind, too. It takes,
takes a little longer
to check. Yes.
But around 11:25, 11:30, checks were completed, and it said ineligible. So the monetization was red with a line through it saying that we're not eligible because we used a song that we didn't have permission to use, of which Steven used the same exact song that he used in the R6 Mark II review or preview.
I did it on purpose because I knew I was going to just barely hit embargo and I would not have time to re-export if we got a copyright strike or a claim or something like that. So I was like, all right, let me just grab the same song for the montage from the R6 Mark II, which we did not get a claim for on that video at all, and then all of a sudden it checks run and there's a claim on this song. It's like, what? And we've been using MusicBed, and for some reason those songs always are claimed.
But so then I
disputed it. It's good songs, but
I dispute it, and within 5 minutes of me posting, because I hesitate to post because it's like, you need to take care of this before you post, and I'm like, is this going to hurt us?
And it said, didn't it say something specifically like this will hurt your views or something like that if you post now?
But I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
So because the money goes into escrow, how it works is if there's so back in the day, for anybody like, if you watch YouTube and you want to talk about an issue that there used to be, if someone challenged a copyright music, they claimed music for a video of yours, you would no longer generate revenue. Any
ad revenue.
Right. The money wouldn't collect. And so YouTubers are like, but people are doing fraudulent things.
Exactly.
And after the first 2 days, I lose out on all my revenue. This is wrong. So YouTube came up a way where the money goes into escrow, and whoever wins the dispute gets the money released, which it goes into escrow. And then 5 minutes after I post the video, I get an email from MusicBed. Your video has been cleared. I'm like, well, what is wrong with you people?
I don't know what's going on. And again, I try to pick new music for every video, and this time I'm like, all right, let me just be safe, and I'll just pick the same song. It's not a big deal, and we still got friggin' claimed.
This is also part of the issue with Canon not giving us enough time, because if we had more time, a day to spare, then the video would have been uploaded early, checked, ready to go at embargo time without any issue.
And speaking of time, let me just run you through quickly the timeline of what we had to go through all week to try and get this video out by 11 p.m. on Tuesday night. So we basically do the trip Monday through Thursday. We get back Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock, give or take. I went back home. Jared, you were trying to actually film the video that day, but I still had to make all the notes for the camera, all the specs, write up the general outline for the video, go through the presentation notes that Canon gave us about the cameras. They sent us a spec sheet pretty last minute that I had to go through and see what were just the general specs of the camera, because that's a lot of the information that they didn't tell us was general specs. They told us what was not in the camera, but they didn't really give us like general specs like the ISO and EVF and screen resolution, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I get all that together. We filmed first thing Friday morning, 10 a.m. I think at that point. I get back around 1, 2 o'clock Friday, and I just start editing. And I tried to edit throughout the entire weekend and all day Monday and Tuesday. And on top of that, we didn't just have this one embargo to hit. We also had the Nikon 85 1.2 to hit, which I had that video, 75% done before we went on the trip. I was trying to get it fully done, but I was still missing a couple photos from you. And there was a few little odds and ends that I had to clean up before we exported that video. So I did that Saturday. Sunday, I believe I finished that video for the most part. And then I had to finish this video for the R50 and R8, which was a 32-minute video roughly. And again, you have to realize, it's a 32-minute video, but I had 8+ hours of footage that I had to cull down into that 32-minute video. So I spent all day Sunday, Monday, Tuesday trying to get that video done, and I just hit it at 10:15. I just finished, and I texted you beforehand, and I was like, hey, there's a good chance I'm not going to hit this embargo, which I usually do, or if we don't, it's like 5 minutes behind, give or take. And this was the one time where I couldn't finish it. There were certain things I had to put in, and I knew it was going to take me longer than normal. And on top of that, I was dealing with 8K footage that I shot in the hotel room of the actual products, the new cameras and all the comparison footage. Now, the issue with that is it takes much longer to export when there's 8K footage involved. It's fine to edit with because I can just proxy it. I can scrub through really quickly and edit this 8K footage, but to export, it takes much longer. So I was really nervous about that. 10:15 came, I went to export, and I'm like, oh, please don't say 3 hours to export. It said an hour and a half. Luckily, it went down to about 30, 40 minutes to export, which was fine, and I uploaded it by 10:50 like we talked about. And for the most part, we lost, 30 minutes, 40 minutes?
I don't think it matters in this.
But I don't think it matters. Exactly.
Because I think people want to hear what we have to say, regardless of who else posts videos. They want to wait for us. I mean, look, Peter didn't put his out till the next day.
He always does for some reason. It's always much later than the actual embargo.
Because I don't think he wants to play the games, which we toy with all the time.
Well, and I'm sure, just like us, he's dealing with other projects in the meantime that he's trying to finish up too. So this, might have gotten put on the back burner, and it's not a big deal if he doesn't hit embargo because he's Peter McKinnon. He can put out any video and it still gets a ton of views.
Yeah, I mean, we've started to do the same thing, though. We don't hit Sigma embargoes anymore. We don't, unless a lens is so important.
Very unique. Yeah, like the 35 to 150 f2 or something. That would have been like a big lens to put out, the first of its kind. But the issue here was that it wasn't, again, just Canon this week. It was Canon, Nikon's 85 1.2, which was Monday night embargo. Sigma's 51.4 was the same time as Canon, right? Or was it Wednesday morning? Is that when it was?
The 51.4
for email?
Sigma.
Yeah.
The 50 Sigma 1.4 was 7:30 a.m.
So it was
on
Wednesday
Tuesday.
morning.
Tuesday.
Okay,
Tuesday.
Tuesday
it was
morning.
before the Canon.
Gotcha. And then also, we didn't get this specific embargo, but the OM 90mm lens was also released. So I felt bad for someone like Jordan from DP Review that he had to put 5 videos out.
They don't have to do shit. There's no reason to be putting out an OM system lens review at this point or worrying about embargo. No one gives a shit.
Yeah, and I just think
and
for
I'm
us...
not talking down Kristen or Kathy or Heather, whatever your name is, Amanda. I'm not talking down on them. I'm just saying it's bullshit. They ended up posting 5 videos in the span of a day and a half.
And for us, like the Sigma 50, I'd rather verse it against Sony's current 50mm lens, that Zeiss one or whatever they have.
Or the 1.2.
Or the 1.2, yeah, exactly. And see if it's worthy of it, because it's all about search at the end of the day. These Sigma previews or lens previews in general, we'll get 20, 30, 40,000 views the first day or two, but it's all about evergreen content. Looking back in a year or two when people are trying to buy these lenses, and they're searching them up, and that's when it gets 150, 200,000 views, whatever. So it's not that big of a deal if we don't hit embargo.
No. Did I get upset, Steven?
No, actually, with Canon, when I texted you, because I was in freak out mode at that point, just trying to get it all done, and I'm super stressed out. I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to hit it. Hopefully, it's around 11. And when I texted you, I'm not going to hit it. I'm like, he's gonna be mad. But you were like, no problem. You literally texted me back like, no problem, not a big deal. So,
because who cares?
Thank you for that. Yeah,
I just don't. Like I care, but I also don't want to play the game. I think if it was like, I'm not going to get this done until 24 hours later, that's a big deal. But a couple hours, or maybe an hour or two, or 30 minutes later, it's not a big deal. I just don't like being put in these situations anymore where we have to rush to get this shit done, or that we're chasing we're competing with other YouTubers, but
for Canon though, we're not really dealing with that many other YouTubers. So it is pretty lucrative in terms of views doing these and trying to hit embargo. But for Sony, like a new body, when there's 50 other YouTubers that have it, it's not really worth hitting the embargo for that. Yeah. So let's get into some top level. We don't need to go into specs. Because you guys have probably seen the video already. And if you haven't, go watch the video. I think the R8 pound for pound is one of the best full frame cameras, not only on the market today, but it's probably the first more affordable full frame camera that basically doesn't hinder itself too bad since the Sony a7 III came out. Now, Correct. When the Sony a7 III came out over 5 years ago at this point, that still that was a $1,999 camera. That was a full frame, amazing stills, amazing video, great autofocus at the time, still a great camera. But this R8 at $1,500 with the only caveats of a smaller battery, one card slot, no IBIS, is a win at $1,500. And there's no joystick, there's no 12 frames mechanical, but at that point, you're just buying the R6 Mark II. For $1,500, you really can't go wrong. Like for me, when they put out the RP, it was a $1,299 camera, I believe, when it was released. So, we tried not to go nuts on hitting hard on the specs and stuff like that because it's $1,299 and it's full frame. That one was really dumbed down in terms of performance. Like I think it was 1 or 2 frames a second tracking.
It was slow.
Servo. I mean, you couldn't shoot in 4K at all because it was contrast detect AF. Everything about that camera was severely dumbed down. But if you wanted to shoot landscapes, it was a great camera because you're getting great quality out of that sensor for $1,300.
And it was RF.
Yeah.
And I read the comments. I actually haven't read a ton of comments on this video because I just haven't. But you read people are like, oh, it doesn't have IBIS. It's like, it doesn't have IBIS and 2 cards or a bigger battery. I'm like, well, it does. The R6 Mark II. You know how much that costs? $2,600.
You have to keep in mind the price point. Exactly.
You have to take everything into account. For $1,500, you have the same sensor as the R6 Mark II. You have the same autofocus as the R6 Mark II.
Same processor, same exact video specs minus raw output. I mean, literally same video specs.
And 40 frames a second. Yes, it's 6 frames per second with an electronic first curtain shutter, but
it's $1,500.
It's a $1,500 camera.
Yeah.
And people, like, IBIS didn't exist until the mirrorless cameras. And is IBIS a big deal? Well, if you're going to do run and gun video, but a lot of the times, as we showed in the video, if you have a lens with IS and you you put it on this body, you're going to get your 5 stops of image stabilization.
One thing, though, I will say they kind of crippled the kit version of this camera because it comes at the 24 to 50, f4.5 to 6.3, or whatever that lens is. I wish they had a kit option coming with the 24 to 105 f4 or something like that, or whatever the R6 Mark II comes with.
F4.
Yeah, or
with
27.
IS.
Yep, yeah. I think that would have been a much better option. But again, who's this aimed at? So,
I might make this my vlogging camera potentially with a image stabilized lens. Potentially.
I mean, for video, you really can't go wrong. Yes, I do wish there was IBIS again, but it's not the end of the world for $1,500. If they did not have the R6 Mark II and this was the only option available, then that would be a different story. We would probably hit a little harder on this camera because that would be the only option for Canon users. But if you want all of the bells and whistles, you get the R6 Mark II. You just spend the extra money. It's the same thing like people were talking about. I read some of the comments and them saying like, oh, if this was a Nikon, you would have bashed it just like the Z6, Z7, blah, blah, blah. That only had 1 card slot, no grip option, stuff like that. But it's like, We bashed that camera at the time because there were no other options that Nikon offered. It was just the Z6 and Z7. There was no room to upgrade to 2 card slots, to a battery grip, to all of that. Canon now has several different models, and for the end user, for the demographic that this camera is going after, I think it's a great action-packed camera for $1,500.
You can throw it in your bag if you're a wedding shooter and you want a backup that's full frame. It can work. People are like, oh, a wedding camera with no IBIS? I'm like, oh, a film camera with no IBIS? A DSLR with no IBIS? One roll of film in the camera? Look, I am a staunch supporter of 2 cards, memory cards, at all times.
Well, and when it comes to IBIS, I just think, yeah, I get it for video work, but if you're really running and gunning at a wedding doing video work, I would think you would have a gimbal of some sort, and you don't really need IBIS for that. And for photography, you really don't need IBIS.
No, you don't, generally speaking. Now, look, yes, I want 2 cards as much as possible, but when you take everything into account, $1,500 camera, full frame, 40 frames a second, 20 frames a second, electronic also, the same everything from the same Digic X Digic X processor.
It's literally the R6 Mark II inside this body.
Yeah. Oh, the one comment I would see is, oh, it's a terrible EVF. It's outdated. I'm like, first off, you didn't look through the damn EVF.
You're lucky it has an EVF.
Exactly. And I looked through the EVF. I'm like, yeah, it's small on the R8, not as small as the R50. And I'm like, it's perfectly fine. I don't know why they nitpick. I mean, I nitpick, but when you pick things that just that aren't a big deal. One, I use the EVF. Is perfectly fine.
I think resolution when it comes to the EVF these days doesn't
meaningless.
Really matter. Now, for some reason with Sony, it does kind of matter. I can usually almost see the lines of resolution in a Sony EVF, especially going back to like the A7 III, which was around a 2 million dot EVF as well. But for Canon and Nikon, their EVFs have always been great. Even lower resolution, it really doesn't matter. I can't see the difference between this 2.36 million dot EVF versus, say, the R5's 5.36 or whatever it is, or 5.76, I think. So at the end of the day, resolution doesn't really matter. The fact that it has an EVF, I'm shocked. Now, if they got rid of the EVF, that would have been a much bigger deal with this camera.
Yeah, then it would be useless.
Yes.
The full frame without an EVF would be the dumbest fucking thing
We
ever.
would have hit hard on that. And I'm surprised they gave the R50 an EVF, because that camera is really meant for someone that doesn't know anything about photography and they're used to the smartphone era.
Yeah, and you want to talk about a tiny viewfinder. That's a tiny viewfinder.
I think it's the same as the R10, which is so tiny. It's hard to even, I forget what the magnification rate is, but it's
0.7 or
small.
Something.
Yeah.
But when you use it and you put your eye up to it, it works.
It does.
Like, you get used to this shit. But I love when people complain about those low end options as if they expect to get an R3 for $1,500 or $679.
Exactly.
Like, stop it. Just think.
That's the big thing when I was reading these comments. It's like, it doesn't have this. I'm like, guys, it's $1,500. Now, I will say, speaking of price, there were a couple people from the UK and Australia that were complaining about the price, because over there, it's actually pretty closely priced to the original R6. Like, I think you're only talking $200 difference or something like that. So
yeah, we don't control that.
Well, of course, but we are strictly talking US dollars, obviously, because we're
only
from
ones
the US.
that matter.
But in the UK, I mean, if it's that close to the original R6, I don't know. I might lean more towards the original R6 with the bigger battery, joystick, IBIS, and 2 card slots.
Well, the other thing is, at $1,500, you also have an R7.
Yes.
So you have a crop sensor R7 from Canon. This is a question, because we're gonna make that comparison video.
Which the R7 is essentially a mini R6 Mark II, just APS-C sensor. So it's like, do you want all the bells and whistles minus the full frame sensor? Then you get the R7. But if you want the full frame, the quality, then you get the R8. But you have to understand, you're going to be limited in terms of, again, no dual card slots, all that stuff.
I don't know, man. Full frame to me. I mean, yes, I've done some great stuff with crop sensor cameras. You can do everything. And with anything.
Oh, I agree, but I'd rather opt for the full frame sensor myself, because a lot of these limitations aren't deal breaking for me. Like the 6 frames a second, for example, in electronic first curtain, a lot of people were complaining about that, but what most people don't realize is every single Canon camera and Sony camera, and I'm not sure if Nikon does or not, but they all default to electronic first curtain shutter.
I think the Nikon does as well.
Yeah, so mechanical shutter, most cameras, unless you're choosing the mechanical shutter, they're not defaulting to that. You're not even using it most of the time. You're using electronic first curtain, and minus it affecting bokeh a little bit with 1.2 lenses, shot wide open. It's really not a deal breaker. Also, 6 frames a second. My 5D Mark IV, what was it, 7? And usually it would. I think back
Is it
then.
for sale?
Yeah, you want to buy it? Anyone? Back then, Canon would dumb it down depending on the resolution of your raw file, so you're really getting like 5 frames a second, and I could deal with it. It was fine. And for $1,500, if I had this camera when I was first starting out, I wouldn't have had to get the the 7D and then eventually upgrade to the 5D Mark III and then the 5D Mark IV. I would have went right to the R8. $1,500. It's a great entry level full frame camera.
And then, of course, there's people like, oh, there's no third-party support. No, there's not.
I do get that.
There's no third-party support, but there are less expensive RF options that they do offer that still are more expensive than some third-party, which is fine. You could still go adapt EF glass to this thing and be happy for a long-ass time.
And I forgot how many lower end full frame RF lenses that Canon has, like decent ones. So I tried to force you to use more of the dumbed down lenses, if you will, like the 35 1.8 with IS, the 85 f2 macro lens, the 50 1.8, the nifty 50 that they have. These are all $200, $300, $400, $500, $600 lenses that I think pair well with a camera like this for, again, the demographic that they're trying for. And I think the quality looks great. Like, especially the 85 f2 pictures that you got. I think they look fine.
I took them.
What? That's because you took them. I mean, that's why. That's the real reason.
I have to say, though,
but
your
they do actually have
good.
a lot of lower end lenses, which I didn't really realize until we went on this trip.
Yep.
And yeah, the presets, I'm shocked that you used something that tweaks the colors a little more, like Mount Airy or Fifth Element or whatever it may be.
Well, it's for weddings. It was a wedding look.
I love that look. I think the pictures that you got on this trip edited with that specific preset look great. Mainly because there's so much greenery around the back of the the background. I think those presets shine when there's a lot of foliage in the photo.
Steven, play that sound. We know what that means. This RAWtalk is brought to you by Squarespace. If you're looking to build your very own online website, use what I used for over 10 years, Squarespace.
Whoa.
Go to squarespace.com/FronosPhoto to get your 14-day free trial. And if you decide it's for you, use the code FronosPhoto at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Steven has had a website ready to go for years and still hasn't launched it. Anyway, if you do photo shoots and you want to showcase your work, and you want something that's turnkey and easy, we use Squarespace. Thanks, Squarespace, for helping me buy my new building, by the way. And Squarespace has helped me buy many of buildings because it works. I've been using them for 10 years. Been promoting them for 10 years.
Hey, me too. Wait, I haven't been using them.
They've been paying me for 10 years, and I would be remiss if I said that Squarespace didn't help me buy my first, not my first property, but my second property, my third property, my fourth and now my fifth property.
I was talking to Drew McCallum from Canon. We actually had a cigar one night, which was really nice. And we were talking about, I think his wife's favorite band was 21 Pilots. And I was like, oh, I shot them a million times back in the day from 2012 to 2015 with a radio station.
12,800 ISO outside.
Correct. There's a photo that I have at 12,800 ISO outside at like 7 o'clock at night, which looks great. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to show you them. And I'm like, wait, I don't have a website that I can't show you. I'm going to have to go on my computer the old school way, dig them up in Lightroom catalog and export them and send them your way. It's like, I really need a freaking website, man.
All right. So, another thing I want to talk about with the Canon trip. So the R8, they have a bunch of different shoots for us. Well, R8 and R50, and they take us to this mansion. I don't remember what mansion it was to have dinner.
Governor Thomas Bennett's mansion or something like that.
Welcome to Thomas Bennett's mansion.
It was a beautiful mansion.
Yes, where he probably owned a plantation way back in the day.
Oh, I'm sure.
He probably did. But anyway, so one of the they call them activations, things that we were going to photograph. They were supposed to have a cigar roller. So I go down to where the cigar guy is, and I walk in and I'm like, yeah, you rolling cigars? I want to take some pictures. He's like, no, I'm just giving cigars away. They literally hired a cigar van, this tow thing, really cool design.
It was.
Where you walk in, it's got humidors in the walls, it's got windows that open, it's got ashtrays, it's got the ventilation in the ceiling. They bought enough cigars for everybody on the trip. I don't smoke, Steven smokes, so he gets a cigar. But even worse than that, I'll say, is now that next to there, a little further away, they had a whiskey tasting thing. Like,
they had bourbon
why do I
and
want to
everything.
take pictures of this guy? And I don't like drinking, so I didn't get any of that. So my recommendation to them was a cupcake tasting station and a chocolate tasting station. You know, that's not always just everything's about alcohol and smoking.
I'm not mad about it.
Anyway, that was that part.
And the same thing happened at my wedding. My wife surprised me with it was supposed to be an on-site cigar roller because, again, I do like my cigars. And they showed up with 50 or 100 pre-rolled cigars, and there was nothing actually happening on site. He was supposed to be hand rolling them on site, a couple, and then also had 50 on standby for people that wanted to smoke right away. But same thing happened.
To pay him?
We rolled up. He rolled up, and he just had the pre-made cigars, and that's it. And he's like, "Oh, well, these are pre-made." And it's like, no, but your advertisement literally said you're going to be hand rolling them on site. So I think the same thing happened with Canon on this trip.
Did you have to pay him?
Yeah, we still paid him. I mean, he still supplied all the cigars and everything, but the point was like a picture opportunity of him hand rolling, and yeah.
That's terrible. So R50 side. R50 is basically an M50 Mark II, but now with the same sensor from the R10, which is a very good 24 megapixel sensor. You don't have IBIS in it. This is an unbelievable vlogging type camera or a creator type camera for someone just starting out. I used it to take stills because I wanted to see how the stills looked. Stills are great, as you would expect. It's difficult to shoot with. And the A+ mode that they talk about, that they say it's almost computational photography, is so confusing and so stupid that you shouldn't use it.
It's basically the HDR moving subjects mode that was introduced in the R6 Mark II. You can look at that video if you want to see what I'm talking about, where they take bracketed photos, the camera says busy, it locks up to one shot, right, and JPEG only, and it basically merges those photos for a better dynamic range photo. But again, how many people are shooting one photo at a time and then having to wait a couple seconds for the photo to be created in camera? I think it's a waste of a feature. I'd rather just have a standard auto mode where I can still shoot raw if I wanted to, but the camera's thinking for me. I think there's way too many auto modes on this camera, and I think it starts to become confusing.
It was confusing. Dave Tries This did it in his video that he put up for the R50. He shows you me as I was the subject, a bunch of different of the presets that are in there that are just absolutely terrible. The thing is, when you turn on the R50 and you go into the A+ green mode, it has three options, two color looking things on the back that you press those buttons, then it brings up three other
more
options.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is too much. And when you go into manual, you can't change the aperture. You can change. There's a dedicated ISO button. There's a switch up top for moving the shutter speed. Now, I could have that go to change the aperture. The problem is, if I make that the aperture, then there's no way to change the shutter speed unless you touch the screen.
I was going to say, you can still touch the screen and change everything, correct?
Yes,
but there's
you can.
The R10 is definitely more of a photography camera with 2 or 3 points of control where you can change aperture, shutter speed, everything on the fly, has the joystick. But yeah, this camera is more like a touchscreen experience, in my opinion, versus like using it as like an EVF camera.
I like it from a size perspective.
Super tiny.
But again, Canon doesn't have a wide angle option for their crop sensor cameras that is a vloggy option. They have an 18-45, which we showed with ND filter on and ND filter off, and how much better the quality looks when you have some background blur, when you cut down on the light. But it's still a shitty lens, but it worked.
Well,
you can get the job done.
What I don't understand is, why does the M50 Mark II come with a 15-45 kit lens, but with the RF version, they limited it to an 18-45 kit lens? It should have been a 15-45. I think you can get away more with that wide end versus 18 on a crop sensor camera. But I still think they need that ultra wide option like the M50 Mark II had with the 11-22. That is a great vlogging lens for a camera.
That's what I took to Paris.
Yep, exactly.
The first time.
And I will say, reviewing some of the footage, don't expect like a super fast readout with the R50 video. Like, there's definitely a decent amount of jelloing going on if you're really doing a whip pan and stuff like that. Yes, it has a Digic X processor, but it's not the greatest video in the world. Again, it's $680. You can't expect it to be the best video in the world. But for the demographic, it's a great little camera that packs a punch.
Well, we're going to have to put it up against the ZVE10 and
the Z30.
Z30.
The Z30 and the ZV-E10, actually Canon specifically mentioned those cameras during the presentation, which I'm very surprised that they did that. They typically just say competitor A or B or whatever it may be. They mention them by name, which Sony always does.
As they should. I mean, this is who they're going after, and they told us they've sold a shit ton of M50s and M50 Mark IIs.
I believe it.
I believe it because that camera's like $499 or $3 something at Costco, and someone who just wants to get better pictures, they'll go get that camera, and then they'll go on YouTube and find our user guide. So we've got a lot of user guides to make.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of videos in general to make.
Oh, Steven, at the new place, we can have a user guide area.
Well, we kind of do right now, but it's not always set up. That's the thing, because we have limited lighting and space. So the nice thing about this new place is we'll have probably an area that we can permanently set up for user guides. But the only thing about this camera is I still think $680 for body only, $800 for the kit is a little much. I still think you need that sweet spot of $500. But again, I guess the M50 Mark II is going to be that new $500 camera.
Yeah, but the R50 is close enough at $649. But that's body only.
$679, yeah.
$679. I was just thinking for that new set, we could put a bunch of different cameras behind us, and that would kind of be cool because it's a user guide.
Yeah. And also with the R50, don't expect to be shooting RAW really with this camera, or at least action with RAW, because the buffer and
7 frames.
The fact that it has UHS 1 card, they really limited that. I wish they would have gave it UHS 2 support, because the buffer is next to nothing. It's 7 RAW files, and then you have to wait a couple seconds for it to write because it's a UHS 1 SD card slot. So I do think the fact that they limited it to UHS 1 only is a little annoying. It should have been UHS 2, because UHS 2 is even getting old. Don't they have UHS 3 at this point? I don't think anyone has adopted it yet, but I believe it's out there.
I don't know. All I know is that Canon has done a fantastic job with their lineup, and Sony hasn't done much. Nikon is being extremely quiet again. I expect Nikon to have a Z8 at some point. They have to, or a replacement for the Z6s and Z7s, because their lunch is getting eaten tremendously by both Sony and Canon.
Now, I do actually think that this will be Nikon's year. I think it's been a minute since we've had a new Z body from them, and I could see the Z8. I could see another lower end like Z5 replacement, Z6 Mark III, Z7 Mark III. And now that they're going to hopefully have, the Z9's autofocus system, they have the lens support now, whether it's lower end or higher end. I mean, they're really starting to round up to be, Nikon's year, if they do hit us with a Z8 or a really nice lower end body.
The thing I would hate is if they come out with the Z8 and you're like, fuck, this autofocus sucks. If it has the Z9 autofocus, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, the Z9 autofocus, it's fine. It's good. Don't get us wrong when we compare it and we say, this camera's better. The Z9 focus is still really good, but the Canon and Sony are still above the Z9.
And sure. Let me fill into that. I was shooting the Sigma 51.4 for basketball on the A1, and people are like, "Oh, why would you shoot a 1.4 lens, for sports?" And it's like, well, the look that you get, and the fact that if it can keep up with the autofocus and be tack sharp, which it was for the most part, that's great.
It's the ultimate test, yeah.
When I was using the A1, I set it to a mode that worked really well for me for autofocus, and I didn't feel like I was fighting it at all. Whereas I continually say the Z9, I'm always fighting to figure out what the right mode is and what works the most. So that's always a question. We always talk about that. But, the Sigma 50 1.2, perfectly fine. Sorry, Sigma 50 1.4, I think it worked really well. There are rumors of a 51.4 from Sony coming.
Yeah.
So if that does happen, we'll make a comparison, because I think that's what people will be trying to decide on.
How much is the Sigma?
$850.
$850. I mean, that's... And it's an art lens, right? 51.4 art.
It's an art lens.
Yeah.
You're limited, though. You get 15 frames a second max do
you really need more than that? For the most part, unless you're a sports shooter, for the most part, 15 is plenty.
15's fine, but the focusing speed, comparing it to, let's say, a 51.2, I think that Sony having the motors and the ability to talk to their camera perfectly might be able to get more data through it and might give you better autofocus, just from my using it.
And speaking of Sony lenses, I do think they are the quietest lenses. I think they're the fastest autofocus lenses. They somehow make them the smallest lenses too. I think Sony's lenses are always kind of the best when it comes to lenses in general. Speaking of lenses, the Nikon 85 1.2, we played with that too.
We did. We had that back in December. We had it quite a long time ago, and then had a cool model, Sydney, for that. Compared it to the 85-1.8 and compared it to the 85-1.2 on the Canon front. A lot of people, you can't tell the difference between the Nikon and the Canon. That's why we put them side by side.
It's a great lens, yeah.
Do you know what? When you did the side by side with the 85-1.8 and the 85-1.2 Nikon, remember when I said that when it happened? I'm like, look at this detail difference.
Yeah.
They're edited the same. They're shot at the same 1.8. They're shot at the same settings. But look at the difference. That's what I mean when you use quality glass. You see, and I'm not saying that the 1.8 isn't quality, but when you see the difference of what you get, the separation, the contrast, the tones that you pull out of better glass, that's why I'm a proponent of great primes.
Well, and you're paying for it. It's the quality of the optics in that lens. It's the coatings. That's why you're getting better contrast, better everything overall.
Rendering.
Just that look. Yeah, the rendering. Now, I did find it odd that when you shot the 85-1.2 at 1.8, like you were mentioning, and we did the side-by-side comparison, and then the 85-1.8 at 1.8, both at 1.8, for some reason, there was actually more depth of field and a blur with the 1.2 lens, even though, again, it was shot at 1.8. I actually triple-checked, because I'm looking at the photo. I'm like, it looks like it was almost shot at 1.2, but it's 1.8, and for some reason, you're getting more depth. Now, that could have been maybe you were a foot back or forward. It's possible. When you switch lenses, who knows? But I did notice that. And then again, like you said, the quality of the contrast and the detail and the rendering definitely looked better on the 1.2, but you're certainly paying for it because it's
$2,800.
$2,800 versus $800. That's $2,000 more.
For most people, right. But for the pro, I always come back to this. If you're a pro and you're making money, you buy the best glass you can. You buy the best of the best with Honor Sir because it will maintain its value for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. When you want to trade it in, it's like if you buy that lens for $2,800 now, let's say you have it for 5 or 6 years and they come and you want to trade it in and you only lose $1,000 off of that after 5 or 6 years. It's a couple $100 a year that you got out of that you spent on that lens.
Renting it.
That's my mentality. Yeah. See, people always say, Jared, how do you buy 5 buildings? Well, the answer is you got to be Jewish and have a bar mitzvah.
Presets.
No, I'm just kidding. No, presets. Yes. So thank you, presets. And
You're welcome.
Squarespace. Yes, and Steven.
Squarespace.
And Squarespace. But the truth of the matter is I've always said when it comes to buying gear, you buy the best of the best that you can. You never trade bodies. You never trade glass for bodies. You always trade bodies to get somewhere else. So if I was to have a Z9 today and I spent $5,500 for it and they announce a Z9 II, then I am going to pre-order the Z9 II. I'm going as a pro, and then I'm going to sell my Z9. So no longer will I get $5,500. Was it $5,000 camera? $5,000, right?
Yeah, $5,500. Yeah.
I'm not. Oh, $5,500
for a Z9. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get $5,500 for it, but if I get $4,000 a couple years later,
sure.
And it only cost me $1,500 to rent that camera in essence for 2.5 years or maybe more. As a pro, you don't want to be dumping $5,500 cash every time you get a body. So I've always rolled one body, its highest value point I would sell it at, have the new camera on hand already, take all that money, and that's how I would save. So I'm not spending $5,500. I'm spending $1,500. That's a much easier spend, and that's how I've always done it, and that's how I recommend people do it that are pros, full-time pros. Amateur people that you're not full-time pro, third-party lenses, fine. Lower-end lenses, fine, right? It's fine, but it's when you're being held back and when you're making a living and you're making money, pay for the shit. It's a tax write-off.
And back to the 85-1.2 video, that was another shit show because we only have really a couple hours with the lens and we're trying to compare it with different lenses. We're trying to compare it to the 85-1.8, the 85-1.2 from Canon. And it's tough to try and pack all that in. And we have to film the video that day, which is also tough. So I try and get in there early, get the set ready, make some notes. We shoot, we come back, we film the video, and then we let our Nikon guy go for the day, and he takes the lens with him. We don't have like a week with these lenses, especially these pre-production lenses from Nikon. They come down for the day, even half a day sometimes.
Which we don't like.
I saw some people commenting like, you should have compared to this or that. It's like, we don't have time, guys. We literally barely had time to even compare it to the 1.2 from Canon or 1.8 from Nikon. So it is what it is.
And I also want to say I don't care about comparing to most things. I just want to go use a lens in the real world and show you the results. And I do think a comparison, though, when it comes to if I wanted to purchase a lens and I was debating on the 1.2 versus 1.8 and saving some money, like, is there really that big of a difference? And I think I would be searching for
a straight up comparison of these two lenses. So that's why I try to do comparisons if we can. You don't know what you're missing until you compare it to another lens.
I just want to go shoot pictures, and I want to go tell the best story possible.
You also want the best of the best of the best quality.
I do,
so you say that, but
Steven, remember Germany? What
happened in Germany?
We did a Frono's photo show, and I'm using whatever camera I had, the 5D Mark IV at the time.
You did, 5D4. Yeah, you did.
The only lenses, well, I did bring a 51 too, but the main lens I was using there was the 24-105. And no one's going to look at my pictures, my photo story from Germany, which if you go to jaredpolin.com and you click on photo stories places, Germany's there, you can see the shots that I took, most with the 24-105. No one's going to be like, oh, you didn't take this with a 1.2 or a 2.8. It was the 24-105 f4. And I got some great pictures with that.
Why were you shooting with Canon? I don't remember. Why did you not bring a Nikon?
I don't think I brought the Nikon with me to Germany.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know why either. Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Travel light?
We didn't do a review or anything on the 5D4 because that was in the recording studio across the street.
Maybe it wasn't the 5D4 at the time.
It was a Canon though. I do remember you using Canon.
I mean, I could go pull it up real fast if you want to talk for a second.
Sure.
And he proceeds not to talk.
Oh.
Yes, I didn't mean me talk, Steven.
I thought you meant if you want to talk for a second about the pictures and the camera.
No, I have to go to cities and whatever.
Man, that trip, that was rough because we were trying to film the Frono's photo show, the travel show in Germany, and on top of that, we had to go to the convention, the Photokina, when it was a thing. Is that still a thing?
No, they got rid of that bullshit.
But that was a tough trip.
5D Mark IV is what I shot with.
Why? I just don't remember why. Because we definitely weren't reviewing that camera.
I had a 11-24 f4.
What date was it? Do you have a date? 2016
I'll give you that in a second.
Is when that camera came out, I believe.
24. So I used the 11-24 f4. I used the 24-105 f4 IS, and I used a 51-2.
Wow.
They were yours. So the date
they were all my lenses, yeah.
Is 2016, September 21st.
So that's when that camera just came out that year.
The 21st day of September.
I wonder if we were reviewing lenses or something. I don't know.
I don't know what we were doing.
No, all those lenses that you just named were old. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it was before RF. But I got some really good photos there. Oh, man, my photos are good. I'm fucking great. Anyway, Steven.
Lots of stuff to talk about this week.
I'm hungry. I want to go make my lunch.
Yes, me too.
So to wrap it up, people, thank you for listening and enjoying our banter and sending us positive or constructive criticism comments.
I don't know if they were constructive criticism. They were
more
just...
Look, if you're going to leave a comment and you want to take a shot at us, maybe proofread before you do that. Maybe come across like a knowledgeable human being, and maybe we'll take your constructive criticism. Text us 313-710-9729. Maybe next week we'll read some of the messages that we get from there. We're still getting a lot of messages from people, and we appreciate it, and we thank you for doing so.
And we still respond to almost every text, yeah.
Yeah, you responded to a guy with a thumbs up, Steven.
Please
don't do that again. Yeah, there's a thumbs up in there.
When was that?
Let's see. Thumbs up. Where's this thumbs up? There it is. Oh, never mind.
What are you talking about?
He auto-responded with a thumbs up.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, I'm like,
that's what I like to hear. And then he sent back with a thumbs up. My bad. I apologize,
That wasn't
Steven.
me.
I apologize. You now get 11%.
Still shooting for that 12 one day.
11.
Just keep buying properties.
12.5%. I mean, more properties means more debt.
Great.
Yeah,
more debt for you.
It's more debt, but it's not dumb debt. It's appreciating assets.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Soon Jared will have every building in Philadelphia.
Every cool building. Because that's a cool building. Like if it was 3 years ago, I might have bought that to live there.
I can't believe you bought that building. I can't believe it's actually happening. Because you didn't even tell me about it until Friday. So Steven, within 1 week, all of a sudden we're moving buildings.
Steven, I didn't know about it till Friday.
Yeah.
I looked at it Friday, and Saturday put in the offer again.
Yeah, we're not even a week in, and wow, our world is
it's under contract,
flipped upside down.
And that's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air song.
Have you told Dan yet?
No. But he just,
matters.
He just needs to look out his window.
Yeah,
he just needs to look at his window across the way and be like, hey, look, that's the building Jared bought.
That's true, yeah.
He literally could look out his window.
We can
and
almost scream and talk to each other. That's how close he is.
We're so close to Dan's place, we could run an Ethernet cable or something.
We could fly a drone over.
We could fly a drone with the memory card on it.
Yeah, there you go. Fly it right through his window.
Yeah, right there. And then give his kid a haircut.
Oh, jeez.
No, Steven, that's a great idea.
That would be funny.
We heard Steve. He's like, "Do I have to come and get it?"
We should have
like,
a zip line across the way.
So we could get on the roof because there's roof access.
Mm-hmm.
We could fly the drone with a payload and drop it to him, and then he could like lower it on the street. He could grab it from the string and then come back and get it. Send it back.
Or he could just walk over that too.
Or he could just ride the scooter over.
Yeah.
It would be quicker if the park wasn't there.
That's true.
And he didn't have to go around it. Because he can't ride a scooter on the cobblestone. I had to think about the new way that I'll have to drive to work, Steven. I just have to go on the cobblestone.
I like that these are the things that go through your head. How am I going to get there now? It's like,
well, because it's a one-way street and you have to we have to go around it.
I go that way anyway to get to the current factory. So for me, it's really not, I'm just making a left turn before I get to that.
Sooner.
Yeah, sooner.
Oh,
yeah,
you come out by the dog park.
And then I usually back up.
Oh, I don't. I don't trust the backing up for how people fly down the street.
Yeah, but obviously I look first.
Steven, so if you need to store a car, you're going to be able to store a car there.
All right. Sounds good. It's going to be fun building out all the sets. I'm definitely going to reimagine the Photo News Fix set because I can't stand the palm trees and some of the stupid cheesy shit we have in that set.
Well, we can start prepping, bro.
Yeah. There's going to be some growing pains, some moving pains for sure.
Well, if you want to come to inspection for whatever reason and take some pictures, I mean, I can do that. I'm doing inspection Saturday morning.
If only we knew a photographer.
Yeah. Maybe I'll go in and I'll just film the space and we can think about, I'll film each space. I'll do it.
I mean, it's one of those, I think there's plenty of space. It just depends where do we want the sets. That's all.
I know. That's why I want to do a walk. I'll do a walkthrough.
We did that with the factory. You
probably better with
the
my
360 camera, actually.
I did that round thing. It's probably better with my phone.
It was the Nikon 360.
No, it wasn't. No? It wasn't the Nikon. It was a early DJI gimbal circle camera that I walked through the studio with.
Yeah, but you actually have a 360 camera. You have 360 footage too.
Early
days.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I got to get out of here, Steven. This is episode number 37 of RAWtalk. We appreciate everything that you do. I guess. I meant you, Steven. We appreciate everything that you do. We thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back next week, hopefully, and call it a day. All right, Steven?
Thanks for listening, guys.
Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com. See ya.
Peace.
Back up that money truck. Beep, 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 beep.